In the late 2000s, Capcom was a king in the video game industry. They were putting out amazing titles over and over, like Street Fighter IV, which completely revitalized the 2D fighting game space. Devil May Cry 4, which became the then best-selling game in the entire demon slaughtering series. Resident Evil 5, which may not have been the scariest of the games, but certainly made Capcom the most money, and many other games like those. But things quickly took a 90-degree nosedive freefall, turned straight down to the pits in the 2010s. DMC Devil May Cry came out, which may not have had any devils crying, but it certainly had the fans crying. I mean, look at Dante and Virgil. What even is that? There was the insanely greedy Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. The milking of Dead Rising, which probably should have stayed dead. Street Fighter Cross Tekken, which managed to alienate fans of both franchises. Resident Evil 6, which wasn't, particularly popular among fans. Mega Man died. Lost Planet lost a franchise. Street Fighter V forgot to launch with any content, and I do mean any. And so on and so forth. Now, there were some great games coming out at this time, like Dragon's Dogma, some Ace Attorney games, Monster Hunter, but not enough to save Capcom's image in the public's eye. But everything changed when 2017 attacked. Resident Evil 7 finally returned the series to its horror roots. For real, this game is so scary that I can barely watch a Let's Play with the lights on at noon in the summertime without absolutely quaking in my boots. And I don't even own any boots. I'm wearing slippers right now. This was a triumphant return to form for the beloved series, and fans took notice. I mean, they bought over 11 million copies of the thing. Another important thing to note for later is that Resident Evil 7 Biohazard was the first game to be built in the now legendary RE engine, which we'll get back to later. Unfortunately, the next game did not use this engine. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. What wasn't infinite was this game's lifespan. It's dead. Capcom murdered it. The game was low budget, and it was so bad that despite having Marvel and Infinite in it, it still flopped commercially when it came out around the same time as the Avengers Infinity War. Disney's paying the marketing budget for you and you still can't sell the game. Luckily for Capcom, this was more of a drunken stumble down the stairs head first than a body-destroying incident, because they quickly recovered with their next release. At the start of 2018, Monster Hunter World was unleashed upon the world. It was the newest entry in what had long been more of a niche series outside of Japan. The previous game sold really well, it's just it wasn't mainstream in other parts of the world. But that all changed with World. This very quickly became the highest selling game in Capcom's entire history as a video game company. At this point, it sold over 30 million copies. That's like Breath of the Wild Nintendo kind of numbers. For Capcom, ever since then, they've been on an absolute tear, releasing banger after banger every year. Later on in 2018, they actually made a new Mega Man. That's right, he's not dead. After a long time of just re-releasing collections of old Mega Man games, they actually gave us Mega Man 11. Now I have to say, I'm not personally that big into the modern Mega Mans. The last time I played it was like X5 or X6 or something when I was a kid, but I heard on good authority that it's a pretty solid game. 2019 blasted out of the gates. What does that even mean? With the remake of one of the best survival horror games ever made, Resident Evil 2. This was the beginning of what I like to call the RE engine era, where Capcom just flexes the potential of their in-house engine to build tons of different games, all at top shelf, $200 whiskey quality, over and over and over. Everything about the RE2 remake just oozes quality. It's dripping out of the gray ceilings, it's coming out of the blood spatters in the floor, there's just quality bursting out of the zombies when you shoot them. The atmosphere is so immersive, I'm so scared, and when you hear the sounds, oh gosh, I'm crying for my mama. I mean, that happens all the time anyway during these games, but the gameplay actually maintains the core aspects of the original game, but brings it forward to a modern audience 20 years later. Please insert the Homelander meme if it doesn't get me copyrighted.
It was perfect. Perfect.
Now, less than 2 months later, Capcom was back, and it was back with a vengeance. A devil-slaughtering, button-mashing, Michael Jackson dancing, ow! Motorcycle arm-wielding, cringe poetry-reading masterpiece of a video game. And its name? Devil May Cry 5. I mean, look at this. You cannot see this and tell me this isn't one of the greatest action games of all time after Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. This game's devil-destroying mechanics are as deep as a Tekken game, and yet this is a single-player title. There are hundreds of moves for you to learn and master. Despite this being such a short game, I mean, the devs did not have to go this hard. They went above, beyond, and straight to the stratosphere with this one. And I haven't even talked about the soundtrack yet. Bury the Light? I'd play it, but I can't, because if I played Bury the Light, the music industry would come bury me, so I can no longer see the light. Then Resident Evil 3 came out. Capcom should have priced it better. I don't know if it was a full price experience. That's on them. Not good, but it's a good game. Not the game's fault that it's short. 2021 was a big year for Capcom releases. March saw a monstrous release with Monster Hunter Rise, which stampeded out onto the Nintendo Switch, and 1, looked good, 2, ran well, and 3, it's Monster Hunter. So of course it sold well, of course it's really popular. They already kicked out 18 million copies of this game. More than any other Monster Hunter game, Rise boiled the series down to 99% massive boss fights and 1% literally everything else. The highest ratio in any game that I've played. Monster Hunter is finally mainstream, and like that creepy, red, murderous, allegedly, clown McDonald Ronald, I'm loving it. Resident Evil Village came out this year, and it has a very, very tall vampire lady. Do I even need to say anything else? You just got excited hearing about that. You've already played the game. You know what I'm talking about. Look, it has a lot of fans, and it makes sense why. Oh, people like the game too. Yeah, the game's good. It's good to see the series still sticking to the more horror-based elements rather than the Hollywood action stuff it was doing for a bit there, because it's called Resident Evil. Now, I'm gonna fast forward to the modern day, 2023, and oh lord, Capcom has loaded us all into a spaceship and blasted us into the surface of the sun with good games. Resident Evil 4, one of the greatest games of all time, that's been released almost as many times as Skyrim, but this version is looking a little different. The Resident Evil 4 remake is nothing short of a classic anime school shoebox love letter to the fans. Nearly every single little detail from the original GameCube game was lovingly remade here from the ground up into a 93 Metacritic deserving revival of a 20-year-old game that will still be talked about 20 years from now. And finally, we arrive at the game that caused me to make this video. The newest entry in the series that popularized fighting games is here.
Street Fighter 6!
Listen, I really don't like Street Fighter 5, but 6 is not just better than 5, it's better than virtually every other fighting game we've gotten in the last few years. And I'm not hating on any other games. I like Smash Bros, Mortal Kombat, I'm a big Jade fan. Tekken's cool, I want Virtua Fighter to come back, I like Guilty Gear, Blaze Blue, Melty Blood, they're all sick. But Street Fighter 6 is on a different level. It's so perfectly complete. There is so much content in a fighting game, which is really hard to get. The online is immaculate. You have the World Tour mode, which is this big open world adventure where you can create an absolute monstrosity of an avatar and unleash your martial arts fighting skills upon the world, learning from characters like Chun-Li and Juri and people that I really want to learn from. And you can take those and go beat up the pizza guy on the corner of the street or fight some grandma who's just trying to walk home from the grocery store because everyone's fightable. You have this Battle Hub mode, which functions basically like a virtual arcade for all of us that don't live in Japan who no longer have access to arcades because they're all gone, unfortunately. Then there's the classic fighting mode, the standard 1v1, and it has never been better than this. The fighting is so tight. It's like the shooting mechanics of CSGO for fighting games. It's just pixel perfect. The aesthetic of the whole thing with the neon lights and the spray paint explosions and the hip-hop music playing in your ears, it's so sick. And most importantly, in 2023, this game launched. No day one patch. No patches so far in the few weeks it's been out. And it still runs perfectly well. I've had no crashes, no bugs, no glitches. It's an actual complete video game in every single aspect of the word. Capcom is once again Cap God. And they're set to keep this ball of great games rolling down the hill to success for a long time to come. Wait, when is Exoprimal coming out?